everyone, it's your girl Sunshine back again with another episode of Energize Your Passion, the podcast where we dive into all things empowerment, motivation, relationships, and of course, finding your passion in life. Today, I'm really excited to get into a topic that's going to touch your heart in a whole new way, something that goes way beyond the surface. We're talking about emotional intimacy. Now, I know when we think about intimacy, most of us automatically jump to the physical aspect. But emotional intimacy, that's a whole different, deeper level of connection that can take your relationship to places you never imagined. And guess what? It's not just for romantic relationships. Emotional intimacy is vital for friendships, family connections, and even with yourself. That's right, with yourself. Throughout this episode, we're going to dive deep, just like a first time traveler, exploring hidden gems and a new destination into the heart of emotional intimacy. What is it? How do you build it? Why is it important? What challenges will you face? And how do you nurture it for the long term? We'll break it all down with relatable stories from listeners like you and actionable tips to help you grow emotionally closer to the people in your life. So buckle up and get ready for an adventure into emotional intimacy. By the end of this episode, you have all the tools you need to build and nurture deep emotional connections that will empower your relationships to thrive. Grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's talk about emotional intimacy. Segment 1, Understanding Emotional Intimacy. All right, let's start with the basics. What is emotional intimacy and why is it so crucial to our relationships? What is emotional intimacy? Emotional intimacy is the deep sense of closeness that comes when two people can share their innermost thoughts, feelings, and experiences with each other in an atmosphere of trust and safety. It's that feeling you get when you truly know someone and they know you on a deep emotional level. This isn't just about liking the same things or sharing the same interests. It's about connecting on an emotional wavelength where you feel seen, heard, and valued. When you're emotionally intimate with someone, you can share your vulnerabilities without fear of judgment. You open up about your insecurities, your fears, your past, and your dreams for the future. You trust that the other person will hold space for you, support you, and reciprocate that same openness. Why emotional intimacy matters. Without emotional intimacy, even the most passionate physical connection can feel hollow over time. It's the emotional bond that keeps you grounded in the relationship, providing stability through the highs and lows of life. When you lack emotional intimacy, relationships can feel disconnected no matter how close we are physically. Imagine emotional intimacy as the foundation of a house. Without a strong foundation, no matter how beautiful the rest of the house is built, it will eventually crumble. Emotional intimacy is the bedrock of lasting relationships, whether romantic, familial, or even friendships. It's what keeps people together, allows them to grow, and help them weather the inevitable storms of life. I received a story from a listener, Amy, who shared how her relationship with her best friend was transformed through emotional intimacy. She told me that for years, she and her friend only talked about work, social events, and casual things. But when Amy went through a tough personal loss, her friend stepped in with deep emotional support. They began talking about their fears, childhood experiences, and dreams for the future. Amy says it was during this time that their bond deepened and their friendship took on a whole new meaning. I felt like we've known each other on the surface for years, but it wasn't until we shared our deeper emotions that we truly connected, she said. How to identify emotional intimacy in your life. So, how do you know if you've built emotional intimacy with someone? Here are a few signs. Number one, you feel safe being vulnerable. You can share your most personal thoughts and emotions without fear of judgment or rejection. Number two, you communicate openly. Conversations go beyond the surface level, and you can talk about anything from your daily experiences to your deepest fears. Number three, you trust each other deeply. There's an unspoken truth that no matter what happens, you have each other's back. Number four, you feel understood. Even if you don't always agree, you feel like the other person gets you on a deep level. Another listener story, Jordan, shared how emotional intimacy changed his marriage. He and his wife had been married for 5 years when they realized they weren't emotionally connected. We were living like roommates, he said. They started attending marriage counseling where they learned how to open up emotionally to each other. Jordan said once we started sharing our feelings and fears, we became closer than ever. It was like we were finally seeing each other for the first time. Segment number two, building emotional intimacy, the how-to guide. Now that we know what emotional intimacy is, let's talk about how to build it. Like any meaningful relationship, emotional intimacy doesn't appear overnight. It takes intentional effort, authentic communication, and a lot of trust. So let's dive into a few key steps for deepening your emotional connection with someone. Step number one, communicate openly and honestly. Communication is truly the foundation of emotional intimacy. But this isn't just about talking. It's about listening and really listening. By listening, I don't mean that you're simply waiting for your turn to speak. I'm talking about active listening, where you're fully engaged, showing empathy, and absorbing not only what the other person is saying, but also how they're feeling. Active listening means paying attention not only to their words, but also to their body language, facial expressions, and even the pauses between the words. Ask yourself, when was the last time you had a conversation where you truly listened without interruption? No thinking about how you'll respond, no assumptions about what they're going to say next, just listening. For many of us, it might have been a while, right? This kind of mindful listening requires patience, presence, and curiosity. Next time you're with a loved one, give this a try. Focus entirely on their words and ask follow-up questions to show you care about their experience. Remember, sometimes even just validating someone's emotions by saying, that sounds really tough, or I can see how much that means to you can bridge a lot of emotional distance. In fact, one effective tool for open communication is reflective listening, where you repeat back what you think you've heard to ensure you're truly understanding. Phrases like, so what I'm hearing is, or it sounds like you feel, can clarify any misinterpretations and show the person that their feelings and experiences matter deeply to you. It's amazing how this one act can create a strong foundation for emotional intimacy. Step 2. Create safe spaces for vulnerability. For emotional intimacy to grow, there needs to be a space for vulnerability. But for someone to open up, they need to feel safe. Safe from judgment, criticism, or the fear of abandonment. Safety in emotional intimacy means knowing that someone will be there with compassion, even when we're at our most unguarded. Think about it. Imagine someone sharing a deeply personal memory or fear with you. How you respond can either draw them closer or push them away. Reacting with kindness, understanding, and patience shows that it's safe for them to share their true selves. And the more you practice this, the more they reciprocate, building a shared space where you can both be authentic. Creating this safe space often means being mindful of your tone and reactions. If a loved one shares something painful or vulnerable, avoid jumping to advice or solutions right away. Instead, just be with them in that moment. Sometimes silence and a comforting presence speak volumes. Respond with phrases like, "Thank you for trusting me with this," or "I'm here for you." Small affirmations can go a long way in making someone feel secure enough to open up again and again. Rachel wrote in about her journey with vulnerability. She shared how she had always been afraid to open up emotionally because she feared being judged. But when she met her now partner, she started to realize that true intimacy required her to take a deep leap of faith. He would sit with me in my fears and never once make me feel small, Rachel shared. Over time, she felt safer open up, and now they have an emotionally rich relationship that's built on trust and vulnerability. Step 3. Spend quality time together. In our busy lives, spending genuine quality time together can often fall by the wayside, but it's crucial for building emotional intimacy. And quality time doesn't mean just being in the same space or watching TV together. It means engaging in activities that allow you both to connect meaningfully, whether it's taking a long walk, cooking a meal together, or simply sharing your thoughts at the end of the day. These intentional moments of togetherness deepens the connection. If life feels too busy, try blocking out a little time specifically for each other, even if it's just 15 minutes a day. During this time, put away the phones, turn off distractions, and focus solely on one another. Maybe you can set a tech-free rule for this period to really be present. And don't underestimate the power of shared experiences. Planning new activities or trying out hobbies together can build new memories and reinforce your bond. For some, quality time might even become a cherished ritual, like a Sunday morning breakfast or an evening walk. These consistent moments remind us that despite the demands of life, we value each other enough to set time aside. And remember, quality time doesn't always have to be structured. Sometimes the most meaningful connections happen spontaneously in everyday moments that we might otherwise overlook. Step 4. Share your inner world. To truly build emotional intimacy, you have to invite the other person into your inner world. This means sharing more than just the events of your day. It's about letting someone see the real you, your dreams, your hopes, fears, and yes, even those imperfections that you might be hesitant to reveal. A good place to start sharing your inner world is with small, sincere revelations. Maybe you open up about a goal you've been working towards or a memory that shaped who you are today. Over time, these small windows into your inner life build trust and encourage the other person to share their world as well. And don't shy away from expressing the less polished parts of your soul. Emotional intimacy is deepened when you allow someone to see both your strengths and your vulnerabilities. Opening up about these things create a bridge of mutual understanding, fostering a relationship where you both feel safe to be your true selves. When we let people see us fully, emotional intimacy flourishes and the relationship becomes more than just a series of conversations. It becomes a shared journey of understanding and support. Kevin shared a powerful story about how he and his best friend deepened their emotional intimacy. Kevin said, "We've been friends for over 15 years, but it wasn't until I went through a tough breakup that I really let him see me emotionally. I cried, shared my fears of being alone, and opened up about things I've never talked about before. And instead of judging me, he just listened. That moment changed our friendship. It became deeper and more meaningful than I ever thought possible." So these are a few ways to start building emotional intimacy through open communication, creating safe spaces, spending quality time, and sharing your inner world. And remember, each of these steps takes time. Emotional intimacy is a journey, not a destination. It's built slowly, and in those moments when you choose to be vulnerable, to listen intently, and to value the person in front of you, over time, these small acts add up, creating a foundation of trust, compassion, and a true emotional connection that makes any relationship richer and more fulfilling. Segment 3: Overcoming the Challenges of Emotional Intimacy. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. Building emotional intimacy can be tough. It's a path that often brings up hidden fears and unresolved issues, which can make the journey challenging. But the good news is, by identifying and addressing those obstacles, we can overcome them and build even deeper, more meaningful relationships. In this segment, we're going to tackle some of the most common challenges people face when working on emotional intimacy and explore ways to manage them. Challenge 1: Fear of rejection. Let's face it, being vulnerable is scary. One of the biggest fears people encounter in building emotional intimacy is the fear of rejection. We worry if we reveal too much, the other person might pull away, judge us, or feel differently about us. It's natural to want to protect ourselves, especially when the stakes feel high, like in a close friendship or romantic relationship. To overcome this challenge, try starting small. Think of it like wading in a pool rather than diving in head first. Share something personal but manageable, perhaps a small worry, a recent struggle, or even a past memory that shaped who you are today. This allows you to test the waters and observe how the other person responds. If they react with empathy and understanding, you'll feel safer opening up more over time. And even if vulnerability feels risky, remember that it's necessary for real connection. Emotional intimacy thrives when we're brave enough to be ourselves, imperfections and all. Another helpful approach is to remind yourself that rejection doesn't define you. If someone doesn't accept or understand something vulnerable that you've shared, That response is about them, not about you. Building resilience around rejection can help you stay open and authentic in relationships, and it encourages us to find those who truly value us for who we are. Challenge 2: emotional baggage. We all carry emotional baggage from our past, whether it's from previous relationships, childhood experiences, or past traumas. Sometimes this baggage can get in the way of building emotional intimacy, especially when we're unconsciously carrying wounds that haven't fully healed. It's tough to be fully present in a relationship when those past experiences influence our reactions, fears, and even the way we communicate. One effective way to deal with emotional baggage is to acknowledge it rather than letting it simmer beneath the surface. This can mean talking about past experiences with someone you trust, whether it's a friend, partner, or therapist, and being honest about how those experiences have shaped you. It may feel challenging, but bringing these issues into the light can be incredibly liberating. Therapy can be a wonderful resource for unpacking emotional baggage, helping you gain insight into old wounds, and providing tools for moving forward in a healthy way. In relationships, being open about your emotional baggage can also foster understanding and closeness. When you share past experiences that have impacted you, the other person can see you more fully and gain insight into why you might respond or react in certain ways. If you respond with empathy and understanding, it strengthens your connection and opens the door for them to share their own vulnerabilities. Carla shared how her emotional baggage almost ruined her relationship. She had been hurt in past relationships, and it made her afraid to trust her new partner. But instead of hiding her fears, she decided to open up to him about her past. I told him about my previous heartbreaks and why I found it hard to trust. He didn't judge me. Instead, he supported me. That's when I realized emotional intimacy was possible, even with all my baggage. Challenge 3: miscommunication. Miscommunication can be a big barrier to emotional intimacy. How often have we thought we were being clear, only to realize later that the other person interpreted our words completely differently? Or sometimes we assume the other person understands us without actually expressing how we feel. It's easy to fall into these traps, especially when emotions are involved, but they can create misunderstandings and distance if left unaddressed. To overcome miscommunication, the first step is practicing active communication. If something is bothering you, or if you have something meaningful to share, bring it up instead of assuming the other person already knows how you feel. Start the conversation with "I feel" statements to convey your perspective without blaming or accusing. And when you're on the receiving end, listen carefully and don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions. If you're unsure about something, a simple "what did you mean by that?" can clear up a lot of potential confusion. Miscommunication is also often rooted in assumptions. We might assume our partner or friend feels a certain way based on past experiences or their body language. But these assumptions can be misleading. Practicing curiosity rather than assumption can prevent unnecessary misunderstandings. Instead of assuming you know how the other person feels, ask them directly. And remember, it's okay to revisit conversations if needed. Checking in and clarifying can be the key to maintaining emotional intimacy over time. Brian shared a story about how miscommunication nearly derailed his emotional intimacy with his girlfriend. They had been arguing more than usual, and he assumed she was just stressed. But when they finally sat down and talked, he realized that she had been feeling emotionally distant and neglected. I thought I was giving her space, but what she really needed was more emotional connection. Brian said, after that conversation, we made a conscious effort to communicate more openly, and their relationship improved. Overcoming the challenges of emotional intimacy isn't always easy, but is absolutely possible. Fear of rejection, emotional baggage, and miscommunication are all common hurdles, but they don't have to stand in the way of deeper, more meaningful connections. By acknowledging these obstacles and working through them, we create space for real connection, understanding, and trust. And remember, every relationship is a journey, one with ups, downs, and a lot of learning along the way. Segment 4, maintaining emotional intimacy over time. Building emotional intimacy is one thing, but maintaining it over the long haul, that's a whole other challenge. Life has a way of getting busy, and as relationships evolve, it's easy for emotional intimacy to take a backseat. Yet, the effort to maintain that closeness can keep relationships feeling fresh, connected, and resilient, even through the ups and downs. In this segment, we'll dive into some practical ways to keep emotional intimacy alive, no matter where you are on your relationship journey. Tip 1, prioritize emotional connection. Life often becomes a whirlwind of responsibilities, work, kids, social events, and all the daily tasks that seem to pop up endlessly. Amidst all this, emotional intimacy can fade if you're not intentional about keeping it alive. The key is making emotional connection a priority rather than something that just happens when we have free time. Consider setting aside dedicated time each week for a genuine, distraction free connection. This doesn't have to be a grand gesture or an elaborate date night, although those are great too. It could be as simple as having coffee together in the morning, a walk after dinner, or a few minutes before bed to check in with each other. The point is to make it a ritual, something that both of you can count on no matter what's happening in life. Even just scheduling 10 or 15 minutes of undivided attention to one another can be surprisingly impactful. During these times, aim to share something meaningful or open up about something you're experiencing, even if it's small. When both partners know they have this safe, regular time to connect, it strengthens emotional intimacy. It reminds each person that no matter how busy life gets, the relationship is a priority. Linda shared how she and her partner keep emotional intimacy alive despite their busy schedules. We have 2 kids and demanding jobs, but we make it a point to have a weekly date night where we just talk. No phones, no distractions, just us. It helps us stay connected emotionally, even when life is chaotic. Linda's story highlights the power of consistency and intentionality. By carving out the weekly date night, she and her partner ensures that emotional intimacy remains a priority even when life gets complicated. Tip 2, keep the communication flowing. It's easy to think that Once emotional intimacy is built, it will sustain itself. But maintaining intimacy requires ongoing, open communication, especially during difficult times. It's important to keep sharing your inner world, your thoughts, dreams, worries, and goals. Life changes, people grow, and so should our understanding of each other. One practical way to do this is through regular check ins. These can be formal, state of relationship talks, or casual conversations where you ask questions like, "How are you feeling lately?" Or, "Is there anything I can support you with?" By opening these lines of communication, you're signaling to your partner that you're invested in their well being and open to hearing what they have to share. Spontaneous heart to heart conversations can be equally powerful. When you feel something important, express it in the moment rather than waiting. The longer you hold things back, the more we risk building walls of misunderstanding or frustration. Emotional intimacy is a dynamic process, and keeping the lines open allows it to deepen over time. James shared how empathy saved his relationship. After a huge argument with his partner, they both took time to cool off and then come back together to talk it out. Instead of pointing fingers, we tried to understand each other's feelings. The moment of empathy brought us closer, and we've been more emotionally connected ever since. James's story shows how taking a step back, then reapproaching each other with empathy can turn a challenging moment into a chance for deeper understanding and connection. Tip 3: practice empathy and compassion. Life is unpredictable. We all make mistakes, experience hardships, and sometimes fail to be our best selves. This is why empathy and compassion are so vital to maintaining emotional intimacy. When tough times arise, respond to your partner with understanding and support rather than criticism or judgment. Creates a sense of emotional safety that keeps intimacy alive. Practicing empathy involves actively working to understand your partner's perspective, even if it's different from your own. When a disagreement arises, take a moment to ask yourself what they might be experiencing emotionally. This doesn't mean ignoring your own feelings or bottling up resentment. It's about choosing to respond in a way that fosters connection rather than fueling division. One helpful practice is to repeat what your partner has shared to confirm you've understood their perspective. This simple act of validation can be profoundly comforting and reassuring. When each partner knows they will be met with empathy and compassion, they're more likely to continue opening up, deepening the emotional intimacy over time. Tip 4: embrace the growth process together. Another important aspect of maintaining emotional intimacy is embracing growth, both individually and as a couple. Relationships are always evolving, and so are the people in them. By supporting each other's personal growth and sharing your own, you can foster a dynamic connection that adapts and deepens over time. Embracing change might mean being open to trying new things together, such as hobbies, goals, or even just different ways of spending time. It could also mean encouraging each other to pursue individual interests and dreams, knowing that when each person feels fulfilled and understood, the relationship will be stronger. Growth doesn't always happen at the same pace or in the same way for both people, but having a mindset that welcomes change can help you face these shifts together. Whether it's reading books, attending workshops, or simply exploring new experiences. Couples that grow together stay together. This doesn't mean losing your individual identities, but rather allowing your relationship to be a safe space where you're free to explore who you are and who you are becoming. Tip 5. Express appreciation and gratitude regularly. Finally, don't underestimate the power of expressing appreciation. It's easy to take each other for granted, especially as life settles into routines. Expressing gratitude for your partner, both for big gestures and small, everyday acts, helps maintain an emotional connection by reminding each other of your unique bond. You might make it a habit to tell your partner something you appreciate about them daily. This could be a quality you admire, something thoughtful they did, or simply your gratitude for their presence in your life. These small moments of acknowledgement builds a foundation of mutual respect and affection, keeping the relationship vibrant and emotionally fulfilling. Emotional intimacy isn't something you achieve once and for all. It's a continuous journey that requires attention, openness, and a willingness to adapt. By prioritizing connection, fostering empathy, and embracing growth, you can maintain a rich, emotionally connected relationship that stands the test of time. Segment 5. Summary of key points and final thoughts. All right. Let's take a moment to recap everything we've discussed in our journey towards building emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy is one of the most meaningful and rewarding aspects of any close relationship, whether it's with a partner, friend, or family member. It's about understanding, support, and connection on a profound level that goes beyond the physical. This kind of intimacy helps us feel seen, valued, and understood, creating a foundation of trust and resilience that can carry us through life's ups and downs. So let's go over the highlights from each of the steps we've covered and reflect on how to incorporate them into our lives. Key point number 1. Emotional intimacy is about connecting on a deep emotional level. Emotional intimacy invites us to connect deeply with another person's emotional world. It's the feeling of being in sync with someone's feelings and experiences, even if we don't agree with every single aspect. Unlike physical intimacy, emotional intimacy is rooted in our ability to understand, empathize, and support each other from a place of openness. In our relationships, cultivating this type of intimacy can transform them from casual connections to profoundly supportive and meaningful bonds. True emotional intimacy is built on a curiosity and a desire to understand our partner's thoughts and feelings. When we take the time to explore our partner's perspectives and encourage them to share, we're opening a door to real, lasting connection. It's the kind of connection that makes you feel secure and cherished. And that brings a sense of purpose and joy to a relationship. Think of emotional intimacy as an ongoing conversation with someone's soul. It's an invitation to share the joys and burdens of life, to celebrate victories, and to be a shoulder to lean on in difficult times. This kind of connection is what helps relationships withstand challenges and adapt over time, offering a sense of home in one another. Key point number 2. Building emotional intimacy requires open communication, vulnerability, and a safe space. Creating emotional intimacy doesn't happen by accident. It requires intentional effort, starting with open and honest communication. Communication is not only about speaking, but about listening, really listening. When we practice active listening, we show our partner that their thoughts and feelings are important to us. This can make them feel valued and respected, setting a strong foundation for emotional intimacy. Vulnerability is another essential piece. It can feel risky, but opening up about our fears, hopes, and insecurities can deepen the bond we share. Vulnerability can be challenging, especially if we fear rejection or judgment. However, building trust means showing parts of ourselves we might usually hide. It's a leap of faith, but the reward is a more authentic and meaningful connection. Creating a safe space means fostering an environment where both partners feel comfortable being vulnerable without fear of criticism or ridicule. When we respond with empathy and understanding, we encourage our loved ones to continue sharing their inner worlds. Over time, this creates an emotional, safe zone that both people can rely on, knowing they'll be met with support and compassion. Key point number 3: overcoming challenges to emotional intimacy takes patience, understanding, and communication. As we've discussed, the journey to emotional intimacy is not without challenges. Fear of rejection, emotional baggage, and miscommunication are common obstacles. It's natural to worry about how much we're comfortable sharing or to carry unresolved feelings from past experiences. And of course, misunderstanding can crop up even in the best relationship. To overcome these obstacles, patience is crucial. Building emotional intimacy is a gradual process, and we can't rush it. We need to give ourselves and our partners the time to work through any barriers that arise. Understanding, too, plays a major role. Recognizing that each person brings their unique background, experiences, and sensitivities to the table help us approach these challenges with compassion. Honest communication is the bridge over these obstacles. By addressing our fears or misunderstandings directly, we create an environment of transparency where issues can be discussed openly instead of festering in silence. When partners support each other in unpacking emotional baggage or addressing insecurities, they lay the groundwork for a relationship that's not only more intimate, but also more resilient. Key point number 4: maintaining emotional intimacy over time requires ongoing effort and compassion. Building emotional intimacy is only the beginning. Maintaining it over the years, especially as life becomes more complex, requires ongoing commitment. We can't expect our relationships to stay strong if we neglect our emotional connection. Life's demands, whether from work, family, or personal goals, can sometimes pull us apart from the people we care about. The trick is to find ways to prioritize emotional intimacy, even during these busy or stressful periods. Prioritizing emotional connection means setting aside dedicated time for one another, whether it's a weekly date night, a daily check in, or spontaneous moments of connection. Making time for each other tells our partner that we value our relationship. When we carve out time for connection, we're not only strengthening our bond, but we're also reinforcing a shared commitment to growing together. Keeping communication flowing is another vital part of maintaining intimacy. Just because you've built emotional intimacy doesn't mean the work is done. Life changes as we grow individually. We need to keep sharing our thoughts and feelings. Open communication allows us to remain aware of our partner's evolving dreams, fears, and goals. Empathy and compassion also plays a essential role. Responding to each other with understanding during difficult moments can sustain the connection, even in challenging times. Now that we've covered each key point, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Emotional intimacy is a journey, not a destination. It's built on a foundation of mutual respect, trust, and a willingness to be open with each other. By making emotional intimacy a priority, you can create a relationship that not only feels fulfilling, but also as a source of strength and inspiration in your life. Whether you're just starting to deepen emotional intimacy in a new relationship, or you're looking to reignite that connection in a long term partnership, the steps we've discussed can guide you. Start by embracing open communication and practicing vulnerability in safe, supportive ways. Understand that challenges are natural and that working through them together can strengthen your bond. And as your relationship grows, remember to nurture and prioritize emotional intimacy, keeping it alive through regular check ins, shared experiences, and compassionate communication. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. Emotional intimacy is about showing up as your authentic self and welcoming your partner to do the same. It's about building a safe haven where both people feel valued, supported, and deeply understood. So take these tools, integrate them in your relationships, and experience the beauty of a true, deep emotional connection. If this episode has inspired you to work on building or maintaining emotional intimacy in your relationships, why not start today? Take a moment to open up a bit more with someone you care about. Maybe ask them a meaningful question or share something you've been holding back. Remember, emotional intimacy is a gift we give, not only to others, but also to ourselves. It's what helps us feel connected, supported, and truly valued. As always, if you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to give Energize Your Passion a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Share it with a friend, and let's keep this conversation going. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, emotional intimacy is the key to deeper, more meaningful relationships that nourish the soul. Until next time, this is Sunshine, signing off.